Welcome back, dear friends, to another enlightening episode of the Awake Mind Reports. I'm your host, Robert, and today we find ourselves at the crossroads of scientific innovation and existential inquiry. Standing on the precipice of what's known and peering into the abyss of possibilities. This is where our journey today begins. In this episode, we delve into the staggering prospects and daunting challenges of mind-uploading technologies, an idea that has fascinated both philosophers and scientists alike for decades. Now, with advancements in artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and quantum computing, we find ourselves closer than ever to realizing what was once relegated to the realm of pure fantasy. But as we sprint along this path of extraordinary technological evolution, we must also walk the contemplative trail of ethical, spiritual, and social questions that arise. For it is not enough to ask if we can, we must also deliberate if we should. So brace yourselves for a stimulating conversation that dances between the reflective depths of academia and the warming hearth of a fireside chat. Put on your thinking caps, but also open your hearts, for the questions we seek to answer belong as much to the realm of the neuron as they do to the domain of the soul. Without further ado, let's embark on this quest for knowledge and understanding, shall we? Onward to today's episode of the Awake Mind Reports. And today our mind query is about mind uploading, the tantalizing horizon where neuroscience waltzes with artificial intelligence, and philosophy is not an uninvited guest, but rather the chaperone. You're right, the technology behind it is beyond intriguing. It's almost mythical, like the elixir of immortality, only this time it's dressed in silicon and algorithms. Sit by the fire with me, metaphorically speaking, and let us converse on this intricate tapestry of biology, technology, and ethics. First, let's unfurl the layers of this daunting endeavor, capturing the essence of the human mind in a digital realm. I'll refrain from technical jargon, but consider, if you will, a museum curator trying to digitize the Mona Lisa. One may use different resolutions and tools, but the end goal is to capture its essence in bytes and pixels. And yet, even if we achieve this, will the digital version ever truly match the complexities of the original? A fascinating question that resonates across both art and neuroscience. I understand the appeal of seeing our brain as a computational mechanism, complex yet decipherable. We've peered into mouse brains and even entire fruit fly brains using technologies that are certainly advancing. Electron microscopy is almost like the Hubble telescope of the microcosm, bringing to light the intricacies of our cerebral architecture. Yet, much like astronomers discovering dark matter, neuroscientists also encounter variables they hadn't even thought to account for. Like, how exactly do you capture the momentum of a neuron's pulse? The quandary remains intricate and convoluted. As for Nectomy and their controversial glass-brained clientele, they've found a niche, haven't they? A midway station for the soul, waiting for technology to catch up. But imagine preserving your brain today, only to have it uploaded into a world 100 years from now. A reality you'd find entirely alien. What would the psychological toll be? It's a Pandora's box of ethical considerations. And speaking of Neuralink, it seems they're working on a more imminent solution, establishing a line of communication between neurons and machines. Helpful in medical scenarios, of course. But as you aptly noted, this is a mere conversation between two entities, not the transmigration of an entire identity into another realm. Now, the scarcity of companies diving into this endeavor is an indication of its speculative nature. The academic community shies away from terms like mind uploading because, indeed, it borders on science fiction. Most of the work is conducted in university labs that aren't necessarily concerned with market viability. It's still largely the domain of explorers, so to speak, rather than settlers. What I find most enthralling here is that technology is often the catalyst for philosophical inquiries, forcing us to redefine concepts like identity, existence, and even mortality. Yes, mind uploading is often shunned as the fantasy of a tech utopia. Yet what is civilization if not a sequence of realized fantasies? The wheel, electricity, the internet. These were all figments of imagination until human ingenuity made them real. And so as we stand on the cusp of this new frontier, we should proceed with both caution and wonder. Caution, to respect the unfathomable complexities of our own biology and ethical landscapes. And wonder to continue pushing the boundaries of what is possible. So, what exactly is possible? First off, think of the brain as a masterful symphony of electrical pulses and biochemical transactions. To digitally replicate it, we'd need to not just scan this symphony's layout, each neuron and synaptic connection, but also its tempo, the exact frequency at which one neuron converses with another. Astonishingly, our technological prowess has evolved to a point where this task is not purely the stuff of speculative fiction. Imagine capturing the essence of Mozart and transferring it to a digital medium. We have already performed this miraculous feat with a slice of the mouse brain and even the entire brain of a fruit fly. It's an endeavor not unlike early cartographers painstakingly mapping out new lands, except our terra incognita resides within the folds of our own cerebral cortex. One might argue that fMRI scanning is akin to an impressionistic painting, captivating but lacking in detail. Electron microscopy, on the other hand, is our detailed engraving, capable of capturing the intricate etchings of neural landscapes. Yet the technology is far from mature. While we're adept at collecting data, the bottleneck arises when we attempt to interpret this complex neurolexicon and transcribe it into a digital model. A Herculean task, no doubt. Then there's the peculiar case of Nectomy. This startup doesn't offer digital immortality just yet, but aims to preserve your brain in a glass-like state. It's like locking away a priceless manuscript in a vault until the day we develop the means to read its ancient language. A topic rife with ethical considerations, but nonetheless a poignant statement on our will to persevere and extend our existence. Mind you, this isn't an overnight leap, but a gradual evolution. Just as the first combustion engines didn't immediately lead to Formula One race cars, today's endeavors like Neuralink are stepping stones. Their brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, are akin to early telegraphs, a primitive but groundbreaking form of communication between neurons and machines. Don't be misled, though. A telegraph is not a novel, and likewise BCI is far from whole brain emulation. It's tempting to dismiss this as the realm of academic daydreams or the backdrop for a sci-fi novella. Yet the tendrils of this research are creeping out from university labs and slowly grasping the commercial sphere, despite its nascent state. While the term mind uploading may not yet grace academic journals, let us not underestimate the power of an idea whose time is on the cusp of arriving. So here we are contemplating a future that could rewrite the very definitions of life and existence. We're on the precipice of potentially liberating our cognitive selves from the constraints of our corporeal forms. One day we might be able to sidestep the irreversible cessation that we call death, live without the ticking clock of biological degradation, and perhaps roam digital or even extraterrestrial landscapes that our flesh and blood selves could never withstand. But before we venture too far down this rabbit hole, let's pause and appreciate the gravitas of what we're discussing. Here in this intricate dance between ethics, science, and the eternal human yearning to surpass our limitations, we find an endeavor that could redefine humanity itself. Yet as contemporary as the research taking place at the cutting-edge labs at USC and Columbia, the work of Theodore Berger, Dong Song, and Aurel Lazar, these scholars stand at the forefront of our comprehension of system identification, an old term you see hailing from the days of deciphering electric circuits, now serving as a roadmap for unraveling the neural intricacies of the brain. Let's momentarily entertain an audacious notion. What if, just what if, the cumbersome process of mind uploading could be circumvented? What if a neural network could emulate the brain merely by studying its outputs? It's not unlike an apprentice learning from a master painter, observing the strokes and color choices and attempting to emulate the same magic. Granted, the science is more intricate, yet the core idea is similar. Neural networks observe, they learn, and they emulate. The next grand challenge then, as you've so astutely noted, is validation. How does one validate a universe so infinitely complex that even its architects, neuroscientists, stand perplexed before its majesty? Yes, large language models and machine learning tools have made strides in speeding up research, but their utility is double-edged. They fill in the gaps, the tiny chasms where data is incomplete or noisy, and yet, they are no artists. They'll recreate a Monet perhaps, but never bring forth a Van Gogh. Never capture the nuance, the unique idiosyncrasies that make each human brain a marvel of its own. There is a peril in this, you see, when the individuality that you seek to emulate gets washed away in a deluge of probabilities and generative algorithms. As we broach the topic of consciousness, the jewel in the crown of the philosophical discourse for centuries, let's be audacious once more. If we've managed to emulate the structure, the function, and even the outputs, why would consciousness not emerge? Is it an elixir, a unique brew that transcends even the most accurate replications? Or, as I tend to lean, is it fundamentally computational, a symphony so intricate that it can be conducted on various stages, from the biochemistry of our bodies to silicon-based systems? Mind you, a mere file sitting on a hard drive is but an orchestra with no conductor. To be conscious, it must run, it must live. And if you could accelerate the computation, imagine the vistas of thought one could explore in a single day. A thought-provoking consideration, especially when juxtaposed against the rapid strides artificial intelligence is making. Perhaps the road to machine superintelligence will provide us with the tools for successful mind uploading. It's a dance of possibilities, each tangoing in harmony, pulling us toward an unimaginable future. The implications of achieving this feat, my friends, are immeasurable. A civilization forever altered, its very fabric rewoven with threads of digitized consciousness. So the scientific endeavors, the grand projects like those led by USC and Columbia, and the seemingly Sisyphean challenge of validation. Yet there is another layer to this, isn't there? It's the layer of societal impact, the profound transformation awaiting us when, not if, mind uploading becomes not just conceivable, but actionable. Take a moment to consider the ethical and philosophical ramifications. If one's consciousness is uploaded, do we then have two instances of the same individual? Is the digital consciousness deserving of the same rights, responsibilities, and dignities as its biological counterpart? These aren't mere thought experiments or ethical teasers. They're impending legal and moral challenges that our societies must be prepared to confront. And let's delve a little further into the technological wilderness. If one can upload a mind to a faster computational environment, what would that mean for the nature of experiences? Time, you see, would take on an entirely different dimension. The digital mind could potentially go through lifetimes of experiences in a mere chronological day. What could we learn? What wisdom could we amass? And what moral quandaries would arise from such an unprecedented acceleration of lived experiences? Now consider the potential of copies, multiple iterations of a single mind. The richness of the dialogue between such entities, each capable of diverging along distinct paths of experiences and insights, could engender a new kind of collective intelligence. Yet it's not a utopia we're talking about, but a kaleidoscopic landscape fraught with existential questions. What, after all, constitutes individuality, when one's consciousness can be replicated ad infinitum? As we pivot toward the economic implications, think of labor and contributions to societal development. When you have minds detached from the biological constraints of fatigue or even mortality, contributing to science, art, and governance, you'll witness a renaissance like no other. Yet a renaissance that also bears the seeds of its own potential dystopia, raising questions of inequality and access. Will mind uploading be the privilege of the few, widening the chasm between the haves and the have-nots? In the realm of art and creativity, the possibilities are equally tantalizing. Imagine a Beethoven and a Picasso, rendered in digital form, collaborating across epochs to create works that defy categorization. The aesthetic paradigms we hold today could be shattered and reborn in ways we can't yet fathom. We find ourselves at an intersection where technology and philosophy, ethics and imagination are not just crossroads, but multi-dimensional continuums. Each path we take leads to a different vista of potential futures, each laden with its own promises and perils. Each choice we make in answering these questions will echo in the corridors of eternity, shaping not just who we will become, but who we can be. But before we proceed, let's ponder on the duality of technology. You see, fire was among our first tools. It warmed our homes and cooked our meals, but it also ravaged entire landscapes. Splitting the atom, oh, the promise of boundless energy. Yet the mushroom cloud looms as its grim silhouette. Now here we are, considering the prospect of uploading human consciousness. And one must ask, what if it all goes terribly wrong? Imagine, if you will, corporations surreptitiously inserting advertisements into your very thoughts, reading your deepest fears and desires to better manipulate you. Sounds like a dystopian novel? Perhaps, but these concerns are as tangible as silicon and code. And then there is the notion of optimization, a term often lauded in the gleaming corridors of Silicon Valley. But what becomes of a mind stripped of its inefficiencies? There is an unsettling picture, isn't there? An army of uploaded minds refined to perform singular tasks, devoid of the quirks and whimsies that make us profoundly human. All in the name of competition in some digital Darwinian struggle. You see, it's a landscape fraught with pitfalls that could precipitate the most Kafkaesque of realities. So regulation is not just prudent, it's imperative. What rights does an uploaded mind have? Who owns these digital echoes of our biological selves? These are not matters we can relegate to the murky waters of "we'll cross that bridge when we get there." Speaking of bridges, what about that rather enigmatic notion that we might all be living in a grand simulation? Now, I'm sure some of you have mused over this philosophical gem. The simulation hypothesis could, paradoxically, find empirical footing if mind uploading were to be actualized. The moment we create that first successful mind upload, we significantly elevate the odds of our own reality being a complex computational theater. Food for thought, indeed. Imagine compressing millennia of innovation into mere months. If the realm of superintelligence were reached, we would witness not just the future telescoping into the present, but a churning, turbulent whirlpool where the possible and improbable lose their distinct contours. Space settlements, the cure for aging, all within the grasp of a digitized collective consciousness working at speeds unfathomable to our biological neurons. So, would you, given the opportunity, upload your mind? Because whether you choose to be part of this digital diaspora or remain rooted in the organic realm, the choice may soon be yours to make. The ramifications stretch far beyond mere personal choice, impacting our understanding of what it means to be conscious, to be human, to exist. You see, it's not just about existential ramifications. The blending of flesh and code will challenge the very scaffolding of our moral and ethical edifices. Consider the role of suffering. In the organic realm, suffering, while abhorrent, has its evolutionary utility. Pain makes us withdraw our hand from a flame, ensuring our survival. But in a digital realm, would suffering still hold utility or become an archaic artifact of our biological past? A fascinating conundrum. Moreover, could an uploaded mind, free from biological constraints, unlock levels of creativity and problem-solving that we, in our current form, could only dream of? Imagine an Aristotle, a Shakespeare, or an Einstein unshackled from the limitations of time and bodily decay. Would they ascend to new intellectual pinnacles or lose the very groundings that made them relatable to us? And let's not forget that digital immortality isn't synonymous with blissful existence. Uploading one's mind is not a panacea for the human condition's complexities. One might evade biological mortality only to be entrapped in a digital Sisyphean loop, ceaselessly rolling a boulder up a hill made of ones and zeros. But don't we often see technology as a savior? The sheer speed of our advances, particularly in the realm of artificial intelligence, tempts us to overlook the cautionary tales history whispers in our ears. We must heed the ancient Greeks and their myth of Icarus. To ascend too quickly is to risk a precipitous fall. This leads us to another significant concern. What are the spiritual implications behind all of this? That part of the conversation often simmers on the back burner, eclipsed by the glaring headlights of scientific achievement and ethical concerns. But to overlook this dimension is to ignore a facet of our existence as quintessential as it is mysterious. You see, the digital realm, fascinating as it is, might merely be a sophisticated mirror, reflecting back our own predilections, fears, hopes, and indeed our soul. What then happens when the reflective surface is not just external but integrated, nigh indistinguishable from the entity it reflects? We delve into territories that not just science but mysticism, philosophy, and theology have been trying to map for millennia. For some, the possibility of uploading one's consciousness into a digital vessel might evoke the age-old concept of the golem, an entity born of clay and incantations, alive yet soulless. Could an uploaded mind, devoid of the biological casing it once inhabited, be truly conscious? Would it possess what many religious and spiritual traditions describe as the soul? If so, what does that signify for our understanding of divinity, of the spirit, of that ineffable something that makes us more than just complex biochemical processes? But let's not hastily arrive at conclusions. For others, a digitally eternal life could resemble a sort of nirvana, a liberation from the cycles of death and rebirth, from the limitations and pains of the physical form. The idea, mind you, is not without its allure, but it too is fraught with paradoxes. After all, many spiritual traditions emphasize the sacredness of limitations, the finitude of human life as a crucible for spiritual growth. There's also an ecological aspect to spirituality, one that doesn't divorce our existence from the delicate web of life that sustains us. If we achieve a form of digital immortality, how does this reconfigure our relationship with the Earth, a planet we are already pushing to its ecological limits? A sense of interconnectedness, a tenet found in many spiritual philosophies, may be at odds with a move to isolate human consciousness from its biological roots. Indeed, each path we might venture down opens yet another labyrinth of questions, beckoning us to get lost in contemplation. It's a grand journey, one that warrants not just caution but a symphony of perspectives, scientific, ethical, and yes, spiritual. So even as we've unpacked the scientific, ethical, and spiritual baggage that accompanies the prospect of mind uploading, another elusive dimension beckons us for consideration: meaning. Yes, the question of purpose, the undercurrent that runs through our individual and collective undertakings. In the pre-digital age, our ancestors found meaning through laborious struggles with nature, through the hallowed interactions with their tribes, and for some, through the tranquil sanctity of spiritual communion. But what becomes of meaning in a world where minds could be uploaded to run eternally on a silicon substrate? Would the fulfillment we derive from overcoming challenges evaporate when the concept of mortality is rendered obsolete? You see, it's not just about uploading consciousness. It's about translating the nuance, the richness, the strife, and the triumph that accompany the human experience. Can a stream of ones and zeros encapsulate the feeling one gets when gazing at a night sky ablaze with stars, or the complex emotional tapestry that is woven from love, loss, and everything in between? In our pursuit of technological grandeur, it would be a tragic oversight to forget that technology, at its finest, is but a tool to augment, not replace, our deeply human experiences. At stake is not just our biological existence, but also the ineffable quality that imbues our lives with depth and color. Remember, even as we reach for the stars, our roots in this primordial soil nourish the essence of who we are. To navigate these complex issues, we can't afford to silo ourselves into tribes of technologists, ethicists, or spiritualists. It demands a convergence, a confluence of multidisciplinary thought, much like a river fed by numerous tributaries, that enriches our collective wisdom. The objective is not just to achieve technological prowess, but to elevate our entire civilization in a manner that resonates with our deepest virtues and aspirations. For it's only when we move together, acknowledging the multifaceted brilliance of human experience, that we can hope to venture into the unknown without losing ourselves in the process. But let's not forget that we are not mere spectators in this grand theater of existence. We are active participants. Each one of you has a part to play, a contribution to make in shaping the discourse and by extension our shared reality. Another pressing concern that experts in the field continuously highlight is this: even if we manage to upload not just our minds, but also our full consciousness, the result might not extend our existing state of being. Instead, we could end up duplicating both our minds and our consciousness, thereby making the original biological entity obsolete, or worse, terminating its existence. This contemplation hovers like a shadow over every debate surrounding mind uploading, pulling us into the convoluted terrain of identity and self. Are we merely an intricate blend of memories, experiences, and cognitive patterns? Or is there a unique spark, an indescribable essence that separates a living human from an expertly designed digital simulacrum? This duality between being a continuation or merely a copy has perplexed philosophers, spiritual leaders, and intellectuals throughout history. Today we stand at the threshold of a technological upheaval, yet we are still wrestling with these ageless dilemmas. Visualize a scenario where your mind and consciousness are fully uploaded into a digital sphere. Your biological form ceases to exist, yet your digital self persists, retaining all your memories, tendencies, and aspirations. But is this entity truly you? Or is it a separate entity, albeit one that believes it's you? This conundrum plunges us into what philosophers refer to as the identity problem. A digital existence bearing all your experiences will undoubtedly regard itself as you. But there's the unnerving possibility that it's only a complex echo, essentially a resonance of a life tune that has stopped playing. For the original you, who instigated this sequence of events, the question becomes deeply unsettling. If the upload process extinguishes the biological self, have we not wandered into a realm of self-inflicted mortality? Are we sacrificing our biological lives in a quest for a digital eternity? Let's pivot to another foundational question. Can our humanity, our dreams, our fears, our hopes, truly be replicated within a digital framework? The further we advance, the more it seems that the true nature of our existence might be far more complex and enigmatic than previously thought. Consider also the spiritual dimension. In various doctrines, the soul is viewed as an incorruptible essence separate from the mind. If we upload our consciousness, what becomes of this elusive aspect of human experience? Could technology ever capture the ineffable qualities that some argue make us truly human? Some proponents, mainly transhumanists, argue that our essence or soul resides in our unique cognitive patterns and constellations of memories. By this account, a successful upload wouldn't rob us of our soul. It would merely translocate it into a new digital domain. But even this perspective unleashes a torrent of new ethical and spiritual questions. As we stand on the precipice of these groundbreaking technologies, it's not just a matter of technological capability. It's also an exploration into the heart of human existence. It forces us to consider not just what we can do, but what we should do, urging us to confront and reconcile with our own ephemeral nature in this vast cosmic tableau. And one more thing, let's say we do manage to successfully upload our minds and consciousness into a digital realm. Is it ethical for multiple copies of the same consciousness to exist simultaneously? What if these copies begin to diverge in experience and personality? Would they become new, unique individuals, deserving of the same rights and considerations as their biological predecessor? These queries extend into the legal domain as well. Who owns the uploaded consciousness? Is it the individual from whom it originated, or does ownership transition to a different entity, like the company that facilitated the upload? What if the digital copy of you wants to terminate its existence? Would that be considered suicide or just deletion of data? As the uploaded consciousness continues to exist in the digital sphere, the prospect of it evolving also looms large. If the digital entity is capable of learning and growth, might it not only gain new experiences but also develop spiritually? What if it reaches a state of enlightenment that the original biological entity couldn't attain due to physical limitations? The ethical and spiritual implications of such possibilities are both astounding and bewildering. Furthermore, the relationship between the digital copy and the external world becomes a subject of immense importance. Would it have the right to interact with the physical world through robotic interfaces or avatars? If so, would it be responsible for its actions in the same way a human is? All these considerations go beyond mere intellectual curiosity. They bear crucial implications for ethics and policy. The more we entertain these possibilities, the clearer it becomes that we're venturing into a realm where traditional ethics may not be entirely applicable or sufficient. We'll likely need a new ethical framework, one that accommodates the complexities of digital existence, dual consciousness, and questions of identity that we've never had to confront before. If history serves as an indicator, every technological advancement brings with it both promise and peril. As we stand on the cusp of possibly one of the most transformative technological shifts humanity has ever seen, our collective wisdom must guide us. We'll need to draw upon the rich tapestry of human thought, from ancient philosophy to modern neuroscience, to navigate the intricacies of what we're about to undertake. Moreover, our artistic and spiritual sensibilities will also play a crucial role. The complexity of human experience cannot be entirely dissected by logic and science alone. It also calls for the emotional, the poetic, and the transcendent. These dimensions might provide the missing pieces in our understanding of consciousness and identity, enriching the discourse and perhaps offering paths to reconciliation among differing views. So the question isn't just whether we can upload consciousness, but whether we can do so responsibly, ethically, and with a profound respect for the complexity of human existence. As we continue to advance, each step we take must be accompanied by deep contemplation and rigorous scrutiny, not just of the technology itself, but of the far-reaching implications it holds for all of us. This is not merely a speculative conjecture for a science fiction tale, not anymore. This is a critical consideration we must embrace as we stand on the precipice of mind-uploading technologies. It serves as a solemn reminder that even in our boundless curiosity and quest for advancement, we must pause and ponder deeply about the spiritual, existential, and ethical ramifications of what we're trying to achieve. It beckons us to re-examine what we mean by life, consciousness, and self, and perhaps even urges us to reconcile with our own ephemeral nature in this vast cosmic theater. But don't let the gravity of these reflections weigh you down too much. After all, the beauty of pondering such profound questions is that it brings us closer to the core of what it means to be human. It's a subject that calls not just for scientific rigor, but also for poetic contemplation, ethical scrutiny, and yes, even a modicum of spiritual inquiry. As we traverse these uncharted territories, it is our collective responsibility to approach each enigma with not just our intellect, but also with our soul and moral compass. So whether you lean towards the exhilaration of possibly transcending our biological confines, or whether you find solace in the natural cadence of life and death, know that the quest for understanding is a journey we're all part of. And it's a journey that, rest assured, the Awake Mind Reports will continue to explore, dissect, and revel in. For now, I urge you all to stay inquisitive, to ponder the imponderables, and to keep turning the pages of this grand, intricate book we call life. This is Robert, your humble navigator in this symphony of knowledge and connection, signing off till next week. Until then, my friends, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay informed. See you next week.